Vipers. Okay. I'm okay.
Where are we? Oh. All right, I'm scared. Let's leave.
Hello everyone. I've been looking forward to today for quite a long time because today's the day I finally get to check out the Pivot Shuttle SL. Yep, it's another e-bike, but this time lighter. It's not actually that heavy. This whole box is like pretty doable and light. I'm also super excited for today because I get to finally announce that my friends over at Jensen USA are now carrying Pivot bikes. This is great news. I'm super excited. Pivot is one of the very best mountain bike brands out there. I have Pivot bikes over at Jensen USA, linked to in the description down below. I'll also link to this Pivot Shuttle SL. Anything you purchase from those links will directly help support my channel. You have seen Pivot Firebirds and Pivot Switchblades on my channel thus far, but you've not seen a Shuttle SL. Let's crack it open and find out what we're gonna be riding. I'll need a little knife. Oh, sweet. It's worth mentioning that if you get a bike from Jensen USA, they already take it out of the box, they pre-build it, they pre-assemble it, they go through everything and set it up for you. So it's a much more turnkey process than this right here. There we go. Okay. I got a kitten underneath me playing with all the packaging. So much fun. Man, that's a tiny little wire right there.
Last year, I rode a bunch of really good modern e-bikes. Powerful, lots of suspension, huge batteries, bigger and better. They had all the things, but I still found myself riding my peasant analog acoustic bikes more than ever. While big e-bikes are very novel on the ups, well, the downs are a little less fun than on the peasant bikes. As many of you can see, my life is generally downhill, so this will not stand. I fondly remember the Orbea rise, and even recently told you all about that really cool old intense Taser with its hot swappable batteries. Well, through that hazy atmosphere, enter the Pivot Shuttle SL. Is this the spacecraft that will solve my EMTB conundrum? Before we go any further, this e-bike is designed for people who are riding generally the same trails they would normally ride on their acoustic mountain bikes. It's designed for grown-ups who have 2 or so hours to go ride before they get their kids from daycare, and these grown-ups want to climb maybe 25% faster than on their acoustic bikes. It is not built to smash the gnarliest backcountry hills, nor huck the biggest jumps, nor spend all day crushing epic distances. And that's okay, because to embrace any of those attributes would be a real detriment to the bike's actual intention. Props to Pivot for focusing on the task at hand. With 130 millimeters of rear travel, a small 430 watt-hour battery, and a mid-power motor, the bike doesn't weigh much, either on the scale or, more importantly, in the dirt. From my measurements, this here Pivot Shuttle SL was about 8 pounds lighter than any of the full-size EMTBs have had on my channel. That's a huge difference. The Shuttle SL feels like a peasant bike, and that the preloads and yanks it requires to get airborne are quite similar to a stout modern enduro bike. This is fantastic. Part of that may be due to the shorter travel, and part of that is due to the overall low weight. But on regular old mountain bike trails, this combination is more freeing than a presidential pardon. Utilizing the Fazwa app, it's easy to adjust the 3 ride settings. Something like Red Rocket, Roaring River, and Spring Breeze. I'm still not sure which name correlates with which function, but that's not the first time in life I've ever had that problem. Let's cut to the chase. The largest complaint I have about the Shuttle SL is the range, or lack thereof.
This motor system, it's not quite as powerful as the Shimano on the Rise, in the sense that I often tow people up a hill if we've got one e-bike. It's a lot faster than just both doing the whole peasant bike pedal thing. It is worth mentioning right now that frequently I'll shuttle on the e-bike with Reilly or Logan on a pedal bike, and this is the main time I can tell that the Shuttle is lower power than even like a Rise for that matter. When I'm by myself, I don't notice that nearly as much. So something about the threshold, I don't know where it is, but worth mentioning. If you're gonna shuttle someone with a tow strap, you probably wanna go for a little bit beefier drive unit. That's okay.
More juice, please.
Today, towing up 2,000 feet or so, we killed the battery just about entirely. By myself, I could probably do 2 laps with the stock battery and not have much issue. This seems more sensitive to the extra load as opposed to the other systems that I've tried thus far.
Luckily, the Shuttle SL pedals really well when it's out of battery juice, which is pretty cool. Now, the Shuttle SL can do a max of about 2,000 feet when towing someone. When riding solo, in boost mode, I'm not able to even get 2,000 feet of vert, though if I'm careful and use those lighter power modes, then I can definitely get just over 3,000 feet. I have to be really judicious with my use of mid-power modes and almost never use the full power mode in order to get that range. But with that strategy, it feels like the power assist makes me maybe 20% faster than riding peasant style. That's a big trade-off. I'd be okay with a 20% speed boost if I could have 4,000 feet of vert. And one day, maybe that'll happen, as there is coming a Phaswa range extender. That'll also replace your water bottle. Unfortunately, that's all still just a theory until the range extender actually exists. They are thinking Q4 2024 at this point in time. Now, a full-size e-bike is a very different experience than this lighter weight system. I was able to get well over 5,000 feet of vert on the Rocky Mountain power play, all while providing much less input to the bike. With Rocky Mountain's geometry and suspension, I still had a good time on the gnarlier stuff, but the weight was challenging on easier terrain or on jumpier terrain. We ended up filming with both the Shuttle SL and the Rocky power play at the same riding zone. The Rocky was more challenging to hit jumps, drops, and pump through tight berms than the Shuttle SL. Every landing on the Rocky felt like I might punch a hole through the earth down to the crust, whereas on the Shuttle SL, it was strumming along like an acoustic song. If you want distance and gnarl-eating suspension, well, the Rocky is amazing. If you want to ride normal trails with a smile, go for a Shuttle SL. Shuttling means you're rising up a mountain, so let's do a quick Orbea Rise comparison. The Shuttle SL has much better geometry than the Orbea Rise. While the Shuttle SL isn't the stiffest bike in the world, for the average rider, it'll be just fine. It's also quite comparable to the Carbon Orbea Rise. The Alloy Rise did feel stiffer than both of these to me. Anyhow, it's a hard call between these two light EMTBs. On the Orbea side, you've got more range, an available range extender, and lower pricing. On the Pivot side, you've got a more modern bike. You've got UDH compatibility, a simpler suspension design that performs very well, much more modern geometry, common Geoset compatibility, and true 160mm fork compatibility.
I'll run outside and get a few photos of this thing, and I'm gonna take it on its first ride today. I wish I had more fenders. All right, here we go. First ride on the Shuttle SL.
Honk twice in the comments below if you find it ironic that shuttlers passed me on my Shuttle SL.
Howdy. We're here at my local e-bike trails. Let's try out more of a cross-country lap and then more of a flow trail lap and see how the Shuttle SL handles on, honestly, the most important part of mountain biking, going down the hill.
I'll keep the first ride impressions pretty short because it was darker than a coal mine out there. My GoPro stabilization basically shuts off the darker it gets. However, I did notice something else on the very first ride that would be something I'd notice for the long haul.
So this bike is on the long side of the spectrum, even though the wheelbase isn't crazy big, it rides somewhat long.
When I say long, I mean in particular the front end of this bike feels pretty long, just like the Switchblade did to me at first. To make the Shuttle SL feel a little better in the Northwest trails, I ended up going for a 1 degree slacker Geo set. I also went down to a 35mm length stem. These are the exact same changes I did on the Switchblade, and they really help the bike out a lot for Northwest trails.
This bike's way more at home on this kind of a flow trail than on the more rough stuff I had it earlier. So there's a bunch of minutes of straight descending down like 1,500 feet. My hands feel okay. Overall, this thing's fairly comfortable. That's a wrap with the first ride on the Shuttle SL. I've still got to do some work on getting it set up for me with a little shorter stem. I'll probably go to a bar with a little bit more sweep to it. Just a few minor little setup tweaks. I like the way this bike corners. I like how predictable it is when it's not super aggressive terrain. I'm looking forward to more time on this thing and finding out how long the battery will and will not go for. We're recording. Excellent. Hello, everyone.
I've only broke one thing so far today. That's my wife's pants that I tried wearing. So, Sarah, if you see this, I'm sorry for breaking your pants.
Luckily, we had some Endura pants.
Ooh.
My size small.
We should probably hurry up and get on the trail before it starts raining any harder.
I always do my best to get every single bike to feel as good as possible for me. And for the Shuttle, this took a little bit of fine tuning with the suspension, which is completely normal.
Last night, I dove into this thing with the goal to get it set up better for my location, riding style, all the things. Threw an extra volume reducer in the fork, gave it a little bit more pressure up front.
Here on the Shuttle SL, I just pulled the air cap out of the fork. It came with 3 volume reducers, so I'm gonna add a 4th.
Out back, things were going pretty good. So I'm running right on that little red sag indicator, which is quite a bit of sag.
But this is the stock reducer setup. I'm running a total of 0.7 cubic inches of volume reduction. I want to go ever so slightly softer in shock pressure, not a whole different world, and I did bottom it out a few times when I did a few little hucks. So I do have this 1.0, but that's way bigger. So let's try just going up to a 0.8. So we got 0.2 of an inch bigger. So kind of just going up one more size. We'll see, this won't be a crazy change, but this should help a little bit.
And then with my bigger volume reducer, I didn't bottom out and back too bad. I'm pretty happy with the rear shock pressure. Now, I made those 2 changes to get this bike to kind of feel like it's a little bit slacker. The bike has an adjustable suspension flip chip, so you can make it ride a little bit steeper or slacker. It came in the slacker setup, and I think it'll stay there. I feel like this bike is totally purpose-built for riding, you know, in Pivot's backyard in like the Southwest or whatnot. I rode the Haas Trail Network, which I don't think allows e-bikes, but if you were to ride something like this in a place like the Haas Trail Network, it would be quite at home. Nothing super steep, nothing nearly as steep as what we're riding here in the Northwest. When you're in the Southwest, traction is a bit more predictable. You have far fewer sudden slip outs or whatnot. So if you have more weight up front, it honestly makes for an easier riding experience, especially if you have a bike more vertical riding style and you turn the handlebars a little bit more. And I think for a lot of the folks that this bike will appeal to, that's basically a home run. I'm a little bit different. I really like leaning bikes over and carving through berm turns on faster trails where we live up here. But in this arrangement, it was definitely feeling much more how I wanted it to. As it sits, it is slacker and it does better through that stuff than the Orbea Rise did.
I did get many months on the aluminum Orbea Rise, which uses a larger battery, 540 watt hours, and it weighed in at a full 49 pounds. But on that aluminum Rise, I could realistically get good-sized rides in. We're talking well over 4,000 feet of vert.
Now, the one thing I really want to mention that has me excited, this handy graphic shows us that the battery only comes up to about here, whereas in some of the other e-bikes, the battery's like way up to here. You want your weight as close to the bottom bracket as you can get it. As your weight comes higher up here, the bike starts to handle funky. It's hard to pull the front end up because you have all this weight pulling the whole front end down. So I'm hoping that this thing is pretty intuitive to get in the air. Most e-bikes, you can jump, you can have fun with them, but they are a lot more of a handful to play around with on the trail than a traditional Amish peasant acoustic bike. I feel like this bike was purpose-built to be ridden on mountain bike trails in mountain bike zones, and I think the majority of e-bike buyers will be doing that because they want to go mountain biking on the mountain bike trails with their e-bike. And this provides a really good experience for that. Because the weight is so centered, and it's not even that much weight in the first place, the bike jumps really naturally, and on the higher speed, slightly more flowy trails, we don't have a ton around here, we do have some. This thing feels far closer to a regular bicycle than one of those 50+ pound behemoth EMTBs that you've seen on the channel thus far. I would rather ride this on a mountain bike trail than the bigger ones, but then the bigger ones out in the backcountry, on motorcycle trails, in more remote places, I'd rather have that extra power and even battery capacity too. I did have one significant crash today, which I'm not proud about, but it happens. I came through a corner and I was getting ready to pop in and get all zesty, and I slipped. Front tire slipped out more than I expected. Next thing I know, I'm out of control and careening down the hill onto my head, and I'm okay. The visor's not, the helmet's not. Wow.
Woo! You okay?
I'm okay. I slid out pretty good right there.
You alright, man?
Yeah, face plant, but
Oh my gosh.
not a bad one. Very lucky. I hit the hard packed grease and just lost it. Yeah, like right here, it's just like, that might have been it. Something had me sliding and I lost the front. All this stuff did it too. All these roots, wet roots. Ugh. And here's the pieces of my helmet that got destroyed. I just bought this thing too. Well, now we've got footage for our helmet comparison coming soon. I'm so glad I'm okay. I was sketchy.
I am too, man.
Oh yeah. Maybe I need to replace this now. Oh yeah. Well, I don't have another helmet up here and I feel okay, so keep riding today, obviously, but yeah, it's pretty straight. Depends how you look at it. No, it's not straight at all.
I've been riding the Shuttle SL and I gotta make a couple quick little part swaps. Part swap 1 is from my crash the other day. I bent the front brake lever terribly. So I got a new Shimano lever blade unit. What's they call just the brake lever, brever. I made the mistake of going to the Pivot website and seeing that the bike's compatible with up to a 160 mil fork. That's kind of nice to see. So got a 160 air shaft here. I'm gonna throw this into the 36. I really would love this bike to be a little bit taller in front and a little bit slacker. So hopefully this helps. I'm also gonna throw on some slightly taller handlebars. I just want this bike to feel a little bit shorter and this will help accomplish that. Okay, let's get wrenching. That's not how that thing's supposed to look.
One big difference between riding here in the Northwest compared to, say, Arizona, Pivot's from Phoenix, is how steep the average trails are. Back in the Southwest in general, California, even Nevada, even Utah, like, you rarely end up with very steep, continuous trails. Around here, we have a ton of very steep trails, and that's part of why it's so fun to ride here. But while longer wheelbase bikes help out when you're going fast, you know, having a little slacker angle and a little bit more maneuverability is great for the steeper bits. Having your weight bias a bit more rearward is really nice on that. This bike excels on the lower angle stuff, which I love riding. I wish we had more around here. For the really steep trails, you should probably look for something more aggressive. For the more low angle stuff, which is more prevalent in the rest of the US of A, this setup would honestly be a lot more fun than a bigger, beefier, slacker bike. There's one really cool announcement I should make. Big congratulations to my friends over at Jensen USA and my friends over at Pivot, because they have recently joined forces and now you can get Pivot bikes over at Jensen USA. Jensen sponsored this video. I'm really excited to do a bunch more with Pivot and with Jensen because I'm a big fan of both companies. I got friends at both, I've worked with both for years. I've got a link to the Shuttle SL down in the description below. It takes you over to Jensen. Anything you purchase from my link will help support my channel and these videos. It's a big part of how Jensen and Pivot both will know that you like the content. If you have any questions for me on the Shuttle SL, also leave those down in the comments just below that link, and I'll do my best to get back to you within a little bit here. So big thanks to all of you, big thanks to Jensen USA, and big thanks to Pivot.